Welcome to English in the News. Hello, I'm Sosan from Brain Corner English. Today we're looking at the Doomsday Clock, not just as a global news story, but as a way to learn high-level professional business English. In this lesson, you'll learn the vocabulary professionals use to discuss risk, uncertainty, crisis communication, and strategic planning. By the end of this session, you'll master 8 essential business terms commonly used in American workplaces. We'll analyze real coverage from major U.S. news outlets like CNN, NBC, and ABC News. And most importantly, you'll be able to apply this vocabulary in your own professional conversations and writing. Before we look at vocabulary, let's first understand why this story matters. This story matters because global risk shapes real business decisions. When uncertainty increases, companies rethink strategy, investment, and long-term planning. Leaders are expected to understand risk and to communicate it clearly to teams, clients, and stakeholders. In professional settings, how you talk about risk builds credibility. That's why stories like this appear not only in general news, but in business and financial reporting as well. Now, let's look at what actually happened in the news. On Tuesday, January 28, 2026, the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists moved the Doomsday Clock to 85 seconds before midnight, the closest humanity has ever been to catastrophic disaster. This decision reflects rising global risks, including geopolitical tensions, climate threats, and emerging technologies. The announcement dominated headlines across major American news outlets, including CNN, NBC News, ABC News, and U.S. News and World Report. We'll use this real-world story to learn how professionals discuss risk, warning signals, and global uncertainty in English. To understand the language used in these reports, we first need to understand one key concept, the Doomsday Clock itself. So what exactly is the Doomsday Clock? The Doomsday Clock was created in 1947 by an organization called the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists. It was developed by scientists including Albert Einstein and J. Robert Oppenheimer after World War II. The clock is a symbolic way to measure how close humanity is to global catastrophe. Midnight represents complete destruction, the point at which Earth becomes uninhabitable. The closer the clock moves to midnight, the greater the perceived risk to humanity. While it originally focused on nuclear threats, scientists now also consider climate change, artificial intelligence, and other emerging risks. The clock is reviewed and updated every year to reflect current global conditions. The first word we hear repeatedly in this coverage is insufficient. Insufficient means not enough, inadequate for the purpose. In business, we often use this word when progress, resources, or results fail to meet expectations. Next is the phrase under duress. This means operating under pressure or strain. In professional contexts, it's commonly used to describe partnerships, teams, or systems experiencing stress. The word fraying comes from fabric, but in business, it describes relationships or systems that are slowly breaking down. When trust weakens or problems repeat, professionals often say relationships are fraying. Example, client relationships are fraying under pressure. You'll often hear the word stark in serious news and business communication. It emphasizes clarity and severity, a situation that's impossible to ignore. Phrases like stark warning or stark reality are very common in executive communication. Hold your breath is an idiom used when people are waiting anxiously for an outcome. In business, it's often used around earnings reports, negotiations, or major announcements. Every second counts, meaning time is absolutely critical. No delay is acceptable. When time is critical, professionals say every second counts. You'll hear this in crisis management, cybersecurity incidents, and high-stakes decision-making. During a cybersecurity breach, every second counts. Adversarial describes a relationship that has become oppositional or hostile. In business writing, it often appears in negotiations, disputes, or legal contexts. Example: talks became increasingly adversarial as both sides refused to compromise. Finally, we have sufficient, which means enough, adequate for the purpose. You'll often see this paired with words like capital, evidence, or resources in professional documents. Common examples: sufficient capital for expansion, sufficient evidence to proceed, sufficient time to prepare. Now let's apply this vocabulary in real business contexts. Imagine you're a manager or analyst responsible for communicating risk to senior leadership. Your task is to write a short risk assessment memo using the vocabulary from today's lesson. Write 1 or 2 sentences you might include in a risk assessment memo. You'll describe the level of risk, explain why it matters, and signal urgency clearly without sounding emotional or dramatic. Post your example in the comments, and I'll personally respond with feedback or a refinement. This is exactly how risk language is used in meetings, reports, and executive updates. American news and business communication tend to be direct, data-driven, and action-oriented. This style values clarity over politeness and confident language over vague statements. Today you learned how global news translates into professional business language. These words help you discuss risk, uncertainty, and strategy with confidence. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next English in the News lesson.